Okay, guys. So we decided this week that we were going to focus a lot on Success Club and a lot on conversations. And clearly, like if you are doing all of the work and you're not signing people up, it typically is your conversations. If you're reaching out every single day, if you're friending every single day, if you're starting conversations every single day, if you're doing all of those things, but you're not making Success Club, I really think 9 times out of 10, it's that your conversations are going wrong. And you can be like a veteran coach and still have this happen to you because of like where your mindset is. So sometimes it's like, I mean, and I will even say like sometimes I do it, like I have like a stressful mindset about making Success Club or hitting a specific number or a certain goal or something like that. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting yeses, but then people are like not purchasing or, not talking to me after they just said they were going to purchase. I'm sure none of you have had that happen, or all of a sudden they go to log in and they're like, oh, never mind, I have all access. Never mind, I'm just going to stick with what I've got. And it turns out they have a free account that they're not even paying for that Beachbody didn't know about, said they canceled but never did. Like those certain things start happening and you're like, what the actual F is going on? Like I finally started getting yeses and then they're not going through because of even these random things. But I will say that, if you guys were on the call last week, I talked about, Georgia, you want to come up? I talked a lot about mindset and getting your head in the right space. Otherwise the rest of the stuff doesn't work. And it's the same thing with your conversations. If you're coming from a stressful space, if you're coming from a place of like, I need, then people feel it. And you're also like, co-creating with the universe. You're creating more of that stuff. If you are in lack, you attract more lack. And so then all of your people start saying they don't have money, like there's all of those things, but like you're creating it. And instead, if you step back and you just go, I sign people with ease and like, I'm not going to stress about this because I know that it's going to happen. I know it sounds cheesy, but it does. And then you put the work in. And when you put the work in and your mindset's that way, it's not just like sit back and wait for people to start coming to you because you said all these like, woo-woo things. It's get to work too with the right mindset. And then those things start to happen. So we're going to talk about 5 things. We're going to talk about inviting, following up, objections, digging deep, and closing. I'm going to go over them quickly because I don't want you here all night. So inviting. I'm going to talk about the 3 major ways that I invite. So number 1 is, hey girls. Woo, sorry, I'm going to turn this off so it's not totally like dinging the whole time we're talking. Number 1 is hey girl messages. I do these on Facebook by literally going down my friends list and looking and seeing, like, I do at least 5 a day, at least. Usually it's more like 20 to 30 a day. And I will go and I'll just see what they've got going on their page. If they posted a picture of their dog, if they posted a picture of them going out on date night with their spouse, if they went to a movie and they talked about that, if they talked about buying a new car or running in a race or doing their hair or whatever it is that I could kind of relate to, I'm going to start the conversation on that. I am not going to worry about this conversation going towards an invite. I literally am just going to take the time to get to know that person. And the way you take the time to get to know them is by asking questions or you form them. So, you start talking to them about whatever you started talking about. And then people are like, well, what do I talk about next? Just keep asking questions. Like if you ask them, oh my gosh, I saw the picture of you and your dog at the beach. Like, what beach did you go to? Right? Like I take George to Eastern Palm Beach all the time. Yada, yada, yada. And then they say, oh yeah, we live right down the street. And then you're like, oh, that's great. Do you work at, for instance, if they said they were in Portland, do you work in Portland too? And then they say yes. And you're like, what do you do? So like you keep adding to the conversation that way. Whatever they say, you can ask the next question on. And if they just are like giving you like those 1-word answers where you're like, oh my God, this is like pulling teeth because we know we've all done that too. And you're like, oh, this conversation sucks. Then just ask like a completely random question, right? And and if they still are giving like 1-word answers, then insert stuff about yourself. Like, so if you ask them where they work or like what they do for work and they're like, oh, I'm in insurance sales, and that's all they said to you, then offer it up. Like your next sentence could be, oh, that's really cool. Like I'm in marketing, I'm a Beachbody coach. Like ever considered joining one of my groups? And it's really just like that easy. So that's how you transition into it. So you start with talking to them about something that's happened on their page, or if it's somebody that you know, just being like, dude, haven't seen you in forever. You popped up in my newsfeed. How are you? That's it. Like that's how you start that conversation. So that's how you start hey girl kind of conversations. Then I send out donuts, you guys. So literally, we've talked about it before in this group. You guys have, if you're on my team, you've heard me talk about it until I'm blue in the face. Carl talked about it at Summit. But the donuts, it's literally a cold invite. It's just a nicer way of calling it a cold invite. And I never used to do these before Carl recommended that. And that was, we started that group in May. I'm Here to Help group in May. And so I built my business with literally doing exactly what I just told you guys I did. I just reached out and started conversations based on what people had on their page. But then I started incorporating donuts. And the first month that I really started focusing on that was June, and I made SE36 completely from donuts. And that's when I was like, okay, believer. And I'm the type of person that's like, try something. If it works, teach my team, right? So I tried it. It worked. I taught my team. My team blew things up too. So it's really like, hey, and you can save a few. So this is not conversation related, but I guess it kind of is. Do you guys know about the fun little thing on your phone called text replacement? Yeah, text replacement's a freaking lifesaver. So if you go to your settings and then you go to general and you go to, and this is going to be recorded and we'll post it so you can come back. So if you have questions, don't worry. You can go to keyboard and then you hit text replacement. And if you see right here, I'm going to show you my screen. See how I have all those little codes and then it starts saying a sentence next to them? So y'all know when you're typing on your phone and you start typing something and like your phone generates something to replace it with, it starts replacing it with things that you need it to say. So for instance, if I was going to go put a post up about income on my, Facebook page, if I start typing in disclaimer, the disclaimer automatically pops up for me and I just hit that middle button and it goes there. I don't have to worry about going and looking it up or typing it. So things that I use all the time, like my donuts, I have several different versions of my donuts saved in there. So I can literally just start typing donut 1 and then it goes out and then that's it. Donut, like if I wanted to, like some people I'll write, hey, this may or may not interest you, blah, 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 blah. And other people I'm like, hey girl, been a while. Like I know which ones I'm going to send to who, right? And like, maybe you created one this summer that was like any summer goals. Well, that's not going to work for fall, right? So maybe you put fall donut and it's like staying accountable over the holidays. So you're tweaking them and then you have them there for you. So you don't have to think about it at all. It's something you literally can lay in bed and each morning, or like on my team, we like to call it like toilet time, like literally on the toilet, you can sit there and you can send out like 10 donuts in the time you pee, because all you have to do is go and look at your friends list and then hit donut 1, donut 1, donut 1, donut 1, donut 1, and then they're all out and you did your invites for the day, right? Craziness, and it works. So that's like, that's something that I do as well, is the donuts. And then of course, the other part of inviting is, I have 2 more actually. The other part of inviting is inviting from your posts, whether they are about drinking seltzer, getting your hair done, buying a new fun pen that you like, reading your PD, getting a new phone, whatever the hell your post is about. I don't care if it's about coaching. I don't care if it's about a challenge group or fitness or something totally random. You reach out to every single person who likes every single one of your posts. Okay? The worst thing that can happen is if you go to reach out to somebody, you can realize maybe you already had a conversation going, right? And then you can continue that conversation and build up that relationship. If it's somebody who likes a challenge group, I want you to jump right in and invite to the challenge group. Hey girl, saw you like my post. Like, what are your health and fitness goals? I'd love to have you in there, right? That easy. If it's somebody who liked a coaching post, saw you like the coaching post. I have a sneak peek coming up. What interests you in what I do? Something really easy like that. If it was a post just about like you eating a donut or doing something like that, you could literally be like, oh my God, girl, that donut was friggin' amazing. Like, saw you liked it. Have you ever tried one of those? Like, that's like really that easy, right? So that's how you're starting those conversations. And those lead you into inviting. Like, you always want to look at your conversation as like, how can I get to the next conversation with that person, right? Not as in like, I need to close them right this second conversation. And within doing that and setting the follow-ups for them and building those relationships with them, then it's really easy too to send just like a quickie, what I call a warm donut. You know, it's somebody you've been talking to for a long time, and maybe you started the conversation about their dog, and you've been talking to them about their job, and then you've been talking to them about how they just moved or built a house or something like that. And you look, and like 2 weeks later, like you haven't really been talking much, but they've liked a couple of your things and whatnot. Then it's perfectly fine to jump in and be like, dude, I thought of you. Like, I know we haven't talked about this before, but thought you might be interested. I'm starting a group on X date. It's all about, you know, health and fitness, accountability. Do you have any goals, any interest in joining? And that's really how you invite. Those are like the major things that you do. Remind me, Jody, that I want to talk about coaching with inviting. Okay. So then, you know, and I'll tell you too, like within the conversation, you guys, there's signs and signals that you'll get that's like, oh, here's my open door opportunity to invite to coaching, or here's my open door to like invite into a challenge group, right? So if somebody says to you, oh my God, I saw that you've been doing that workout. That's really amazing. Like you look great. And then they like go on to talk about something else. Don't just talk about the last thing that they talked about. Thank them and be like, have you ever considered joining me? Do you have any goals of your own? Or like if somebody's telling you that they're super frustrated at work or that they hate their job, that's your open door opportunity to go, have you ever considered doing what I do? Or you can say, have you ever considered doing an online business like me? Like you can word it in different ways. That one right there, have you ever considered doing an online business like me? I think it was Janelle Summers who said that in a national wake-up call. Not sure which one it is. There's not a ton of Janelle Summers wake-up calls in there, but you can totally go to the podcast and listen to it. I think it was the one about social media. It was a really amazing podcast. Go back and listen to that. So, or national wake-up call, whatever, you know what I mean? So they're like, keep an ear open. Like, what are those things that they're saying that are like, oh, click, this is where I can insert invite to XYZ here. And make sure you're not steering the conversation away from where you want to go, right? Like try to steer the conversation. Like you started the conversation, which means like you started the engine, right? And that's the hardest part is just getting the vehicle going. But once the vehicle's going, you also have to steer it down the road to get to the place where you're going. And the place that you want to go is eventually inviting them, right? So make sure you're asking questions in a way that will lead you to that place that you want to go. And don't just, you know, randomly talk about something, you know, they say something and then ask some totally random question. Okay. Is that clear? Before I move on, does anybody have questions about starting conversations, when to invite, that sort of thing? No. Okay. Follow-ups. Let's talk about that. So, guys, I also, so just so you know, I don't throw out donuts on Instagram, but I do follow up with those who viewed my stories. I do follow up with those who like my posts on Instagram. And if I follow somebody and they follow me back, I won't message somebody until they follow me back. But if they follow me back, I do send them a quickie. And I don't do this on Facebook when somebody like accepts my friend request, but on Instagram, if somebody follows me back, I immediately message them and I'm like, oh my God, dude, like we have so much in common. I was just looking at your feed. Like your dog is frigging adorable. Like so glad that we connected. Literally that's it. And then I like let it be for a bit and I'll like their stuff for like the next 2 days. And then that's when I'll just send them like a random donut invite. Like I know this is totally coming out of left field. We don't know each other, but you just have such a similar vibe to me and like my crew. Like, hey, have you ever thought about this? So keep that in mind too. And that's inviting towards like Instagram. All right. So following up. So if I'm doing, let's start with donuts. So if I send out a donut invite, I set a follow-up for 2 days from then, because yes, it's a cold invite and you could potentially feel a little bit icky doing these cold invites at first, guys. But I think it's worse to send a cold invite and then never follow up as if like it was just like let me throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, instead of like no, I really was thinking of you and I wanted you in my group. So when you send that second note, I usually do it 2 days later because I don't want to bug them, but like 2 days later, when you send that second note, most of the time you're going to get a response back and people will be like, oh, like, so sorry, like I didn't respond to your message before. Either they've been busy, or they'll say they didn't have Messenger downloaded, or whatever the hell they give you for an excuse, but they start talking to you, right? And that's what we want. And so that's when I follow up. So then if they don't message back on that second invite, I message them for the third time 4 days later. And so, like, really following up is so much more important than just reaching out, like, to begin with. It's in the follow-ups that, like, the fortune happens, right? And so I wanted to give a tip too within this. So the second follow-up that I do is just kind of like, hey, not sure if there's any more, info I could give you on this. Like, I'd really love to have you in there. Like, any goals, that sort of thing. The third one is like, totally not trying to bug. My group starts soon, but I'd love to have you in there. If you're not interested right now, no worries. Like, kind of like what Jess said the other day, like, not in the convincing business, not try to push you into anything that you don't want to do, but I just wanted to make sure I touched base in case you're ready. If not, totally cool, maybe sometime down the road. And then you'll get, like, somebody writing you back, because it's like, oh, like, no, it's not the time for me. But then you can continue the conversation and build that relationship, and, like, sometimes turn it around so that they are interested, and sometimes just keep it moving so that, like, you can reach out to them next month and just start a conversation with them and keep building that relationship. So there's all of that. So that's when and how and what I say to the donut invites. If during the third invite, the third follow-up, they don't message me back, I will start a conversation with them like 2 weeks later based on something just on their page, just like I did with the Hey Girl invites, because I'm going to build that relationship back up. And then I'll put them for like a month from then, and I'll look, and when that pops up, because I use Teamsy, so when that pops up and I see, oh, I've written like 3 times and they've never messaged me back, or I've written like 4 times and they've never messaged me back, I know that I put that follow-up in there so that I could just start liking their stuff on Facebook. So, like, I'll go and I'll like 3 or 4 things of theirs, and then I'll put them for like a couple weeks out, and then I'll do the same thing and a couple weeks out. And that's going to start building that relationship so they see my stuff. Does that make sense? Cool. That's the donut follow-ups. Regular follow-ups, Hey Girl follow-ups. So if you start talking to somebody and you're talking to them about whatever, and it drops off, and you never got to the point about like inviting them to a challenge group, you never got to the point about inviting them to coaching, or like whatever it is, or talking about fitness, or leading the conversation that way, just put them for like a week from then, right? And then before you talk to them, just start liking some of their stuff, and then follow up with them based where you left off on your conversation. Like, every time you start a conversation with somebody, you don't have to be like, hey, saw your post about this. Hey, like, thank you for liking my post. Hey, like, if you do that, it feels weird and forced. But if you're like, hey, how did your week go last week? You're building that relationship. It's just like, if I messaged Mariah, right? And we were talking today, we were just talking before we got here, so that's why I have this on my brain. But like, say I messaged Mariah today and I was asking her if she was going to be able to come down for the Christmas party, right? And she never got back to me. And it's 2 days later, and I go to message her. I'm not going to message her and be like, hey, saw the new picture that you posted of like your kitchen. It's really super cool. Or instead, I'm going to be like, yo, hey, how are you doing? I wanted to follow up. Are you going to be able to come down? Does that make sense? Like, that's just like your conversations, right? So if you went to like, if you were talking about something and somebody never answered you, you can say, hey, I just wanted to follow up. Actually, I would get rid of the just. I made sure to stop doing that within like the way I type it. But I don't want to say just. I didn't just. I wanted to follow up with you. How are you doing? Are you ready to get started on your health and fitness journey? Those sorts of things. Or, hey, I know last time we talked, you said you wanted to lose 20 pounds. You ready to jump in? Those are like the ways that I follow up with people who have liked, that have, like, we've talked about fitness, we've talked about a group or stuff like that. I jump right in where we left off. And if it's somebody where we were having like a random conversation, then I might just say, hey, how'd your week go? Or it's been a while, or like, oh my God, can you believe this weather? It's been fantastic. Like, how are you? And just restart that conversation and go from there, and then, lead it to where you want it to go. Let's see. And then in terms of following, okay, so there's a couple other follow-ups too. So like, say you sent a couple videos to somebody, right, to look at. Like, I don't know if this is how you do it, Jody, but like for me, I've always recommended at least 2 programs because that gives people a choice rather than saying like, this is the program that you should do. And then them being like, I don't know about that. I don't want that. So I've always given a choice. And within the On-Demand All Access pack, here's the deal. I want to find out what their goal is anyways. I want to find out like what they need and what they like and all of that stuff. I'm going to ask all those questions anyways before I even get to All Access, because if I just recommend All Access because it's on sale, they're going to be like, oh, there's no value built there. But if I take the time in the conversation to get to know them and their needs and how I can help them, then I can say, these are the 2 programs I'm leaning towards for you. It's really about which one you think you'd like. Which one, have you heard of either, right? And then they're going to say either they have or they haven't. And I'm going to say, would you like me to send you a quickie video on each so you can see which one you're leaning towards? So now that they have done that and they like that video and they're like, oh, that's the one I'm leaning towards, I can say to them then, that's absolutely the one I was, leaning towards for you as well. You're going to love it. If I have backup for that, like I've had girls in my group lose like 10 pounds in 21 days with that. It's amazing. You're going to like yada, 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 build it up and talk about those value points that you had already talked about in the conversation, like bring it back there, like this is why it's a perfect fit for you. And then say, here's what I'd actually recommend though. I actually recommend that we get you started with the All Access Pass, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you access to that program, but it's going to be the same exact price as if we just got you that challenge pack, and you get access to every program for the rest of the year. So what's really cool about that is we can move you from program to program to program as you progress and get healthier and more fit, or just need to change it up or whatever. Does that make sense? And they always are like, yeah, that makes total sense. And then I say, great, what's your email and what flavor Shakeology would you like? That's it. That's how I end it. Because I never separate Shakeology from a program. I'm not going to separate it from All Access. It starts a whole entire other conversation, and then you may lose them. And so, not because they don't want it or don't need it or don't think that they want it, but because you've just added so much to the conversation, it overwhelms them, right? And I never give more than 2 choices either, because again, you don't want to overwhelm them. Like if you're giving them 3 or 4, it creates, chaos. And they're like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice. And so when people don't think they're making the right choice, they don't make any choice. So keep that in mind. So basically, when you send those videos to people, this is where we're getting at with this. When you send those videos to those people and they don't respond to you, and you sent those 2 videos for them to look at and they haven't responded to you and it's been a day or 2, you don't just jump in and say like, hey, how's your week been? You jump in and say, hey, did you get a chance to watch those videos? They're 2 minutes long. Like, which one are you leaning towards? And then if they're like, no, I didn't, I'll watch them tonight. Then you say, awesome. I will follow up with you tomorrow morning, or maybe it's tomorrow evening for you guys, whenever your business hours are. I will follow up with you tomorrow morning if I haven't heard back from you tonight, to make sure that I check in, right? So then they're expecting you to follow up. There's more of an urgency to actually watch the videos and get back to you. And then you don't feel like you're bugging them. And the same with things like sending off an email, like, or asking them a flavor for Shakeology, right? Like they don't give you the email and they don't give you the flavor. Be like, hey lady, I know that you wanted to get started with this. We know that it's going to get you to your goals. What's your email and Shakeology flavor so we can get you going? And then if you send an enroller, you can be like, I wanted to make sure you got the email. Like, didn't see that you showed up in my back office. I wanted to make sure that there were no issues. Did you have any questions? Like, did you need any help getting squared away? So those are the ways that you follow up with those types of things. All right. Objections. Guys, we all get them. It's part of the process. Nobody's just going to sign up. And within the objections, the most common ones are going to be time and money. And you get the time and money excuses most of the time when you haven't done a good enough job asking them questions to learn what they actually need and building that value and having that back and forth talk with them and taking as much time as you need there. And instead you just talked up a product or a program and tried to sell them something. That is when you're going to get the biggest time and money excuses. My question a lot of the time when they say time excuse is, well, I know you said you wanted to, and I repeat their goals. How much time could you spend? I mean, we can find something for you that's less than 30 minutes a day. 5 days a week. You know, we can find something for you that you don't even have to do perfectly, but we'll get your nutrition down and you can do a few workouts when you can. And that will at least get the ball rolling and get you started having more energy and making more of a habit for you. So there's different ways that you can go about that, right? Or I'll say stuff like, you know, about people in the group. So is Rachel still on here? Rachel. I'm like, Rachel gets her workout done every day. She's got 6 kids, you know, or I'll talk about how like Mariah's a nurse. She's working 12-hour shifts. Like she's got 2 kiddos at home and a husband. She's busy too, but she's making it happen. You know what I mean? Like, so if depending on who the person is, I'll compare somebody else in the group and be like, you know what? I have so many ladies in the group that can totally relate to the time thing. Here's how it's worked for them and it is working for them. And here's how I can help you do that too. So you can bust through those objections with that. And I promise you most of the time, the time excuse is just an excuse. Like it's the easiest thing to say. Everybody has time to work out. Every single person on this planet can find 25 minutes, 22 minutes to work out during their day. Everybody. And then somebody who says they already go to the gym. How many people have people that say that to them? Like, oh, I already work out. I already go to the gym. My response is, that's great. Are you seeing the results that you want? What program are you following? You know, how's your nutrition? I just continue talking to them like I never even heard that. And then most of the time, and then I say, what are your goals? And, you know, and then most of the time you get to their goals and you're like, would you like a recommendation? And I never just give people, like, I never just say, like, you should do this. I always ask first. Even after I've talked about their goals and stuff, I don't just say, like, oh, great, like, you should do this or this. I say, well, based on everything you've told me, would you like me to give you a recommendation of something that you can use in the group? So so I've talked a lot about digging deep, you guys, within the questions. That was number 4. Listen, when you're asking questions, you obviously are going to cater your questions to like the person you're talking about and what they've told you so far. But some of the key things that I ask are, what does a typical day of eating look like for you? What is your biggest struggle? You know, with your nutrition, like, do you crave things? Are you eating late at night? Are you skipping meals because of, you know, convenience? Like, I ask those questions. You know, when I'm talking to them about their fitness, like I ask if they have any restrictions. I ask if they like cardio or strength training or a mix. I ask them what they've done in the past that they've enjoyed, or if they can tell me a little bit more about their fitness background. I get all of that information. And then I ask them too, like, what are their goals? If they say just, I want to be healthy or I want to be more active, I'm like, great. Like, do you want to tone up? Do you want to build endurance? Do you want to lose weight? Like, you know, what are your physical goals? Don't let them get away with that answer. I had one girl today that I had to ask that question like 3 times today because she just kept saying, like, telling me about the workouts she was doing instead of actually answering my question. And finally I got to the point where she said she wanted to lose 20 pounds. But I didn't know that at first with the first 2 times I asked it. I had to ask again. So don't just give up on your questions either. Take the time and dig in. It is actually that important to know those things. So then later on in the conversation, when they give you an excuse, you can revert back to what they told you. Like, I had a girl sign up who told me that she never ate breakfast in the morning. Then she would do okay at work, but then she'd get to work and she was starving. So she would just run and get like a pizza or like takeout from somewhere. And then, you know, it was added calories, like all that stuff. And then at the end, she told me that she didn't have any money for like Shakeology, or she didn't have money for the thing. And I was like, well, listen, I was like, drinking Shakeology, first of all, I was like, it's replacing like something in the morning that you should be eating that you're not eating right now. And I was like, and then you're going to save money because you're not going to have cravings and buy crap on your way home every day that's sabotaging your results. And she's like, oh, you're right. And she purchased it right then and there. So knowing their background is going to help you blow past their objections later. Did somebody say money down here? I think I saw that. Yeah, money excuse. So again, like I'm saying, if you're not digging deep enough or taking the time in that part of the conversation, it is going to be the money excuse. But oftentimes I'll say, now that I know that there's a financial need, have you ever considered doing what I do? You guys don't think that people will jump right into coaching, but they will. I literally will be like, if we throw a post up and you have a few friends that like it, then not only do you get friends in the group with you, which is so much more fun, but then you make your money back from your challenge pack. Or I will talk to them about the fact, like, I'll be like, do you drink coffee, right? What if you just replace the coffee that you're purchasing out of the house each day with your Shakeology? Or I'll talk to them about the fact that, like, I know for myself, Ryan and I have saved a butt ton of money on not going out to eat and not drinking alcohol and not doing all of those things since I've been in this test group. Literally, we spend $200 to $300 a week for the two of us to eat all week long, completely organic. He eats a butt ton, guys. He's doing beasts. So like those numbers are probably high for some people. But like seriously, if you looked at what I'm eating, I probably could get by with like $100 a week. That's breakfast, snacks, lunch, like dinner, that's everything all day for 7 days. You know, like people are spending $25 or $20 just going to like lunch during their afternoon. You know, like they could save so much money. So I remind them of that. I'm like, you're going to cut costs, you're going to cut calories. Like I know it seems like an upfront charge, but listen, you're getting a meal every single day. And on top of that, you get access literally for like, here's your shake. Your shake's $130, right? That's your meal every day for like less than $4 a day. And then on top of that, you just got a gym membership for an entire year for $30. Like that is not expensive. Like let's reframe this in your mind. So you can talk to them. There's several different ways that you can go about that. I think we posted them in the files section here, the objections sheets. But if you're on my team, you can also go into the files section of the team page, and there's objection sheets too there where there's some answers about like what your objection is and like what you can do. All right, that was 4, 5. Closing strong, and I already told you that too. What's your email and what flavor Shakeology would you like? That's literally how you close it up. Like the only other thing that I would give you is just a few tips. Like don't talk too much. Like don't talk yourself out of a sale. Don't answer questions that people didn't ask. Don't put your like own wallet at things. Like don't think with your own wallet. Like just because you thought something was pricey at first doesn't mean that when you're talking to them, everything you talk about has to be money related and it's a deal and you should get it now because it's on sale and like yada, yada, yada. Like I know so many people who never ask me the price, but go ahead and sign up the second that I send them the email. Right? Like it depends on how badly they want it. And if you're taking that time digging deep and asking them and then ensuring and being a coach and being very confident in your recommendations of we are going to get you where you want to go and I'm going to help you, they will sign up because your confidence will run off right onto them. I already said don't ever separate shake and whatever. And then one other thing that I do, guys, or I used to do a lot of, now I kind of give people a choice, but I do give people a choice. I say I can sign you as a coach or a customer. As a customer, you pay the same exact price that you would as a coach, or as a coach, you pay the same exact price that you would right now to sign up as a customer, and you get everything that we talked about. But moving forward, you also get 25% off of your Shakeology. And if you're planning on doing the 80-day obsession, she does include the performance line in the nutrition plan. And if you want to save 25% on that, it's going to make a lot of sense. And I was like, so yes, you pay $15 extra a month, but it saves you $30 on Shakeology. So you come out $15 ahead and it just totally makes sense for your budget. Let me know what you like to choose. There's no pushing, there's no whatever. And then somebody's like, do I have to coach if I do it? Or do I have to do this if I do it? Are there quotas? And I'm like, no. And then they'll be like, okay, I'll sign as a coach, right? So when they sign as a coach, then I can go back to them and say, I know we haven't talked about this yet, but, and that comes back to my post thing that I just said to you guys. If we throw a post up and you have a couple friends like it, you can not only make back your money from your challenge pack, but you could have a few friends in there that'll help you stay more accountable and have more fun. You want me to help you post something? And like more than 50% of the time, they're like, sure, like, why wouldn't I want to make my money back? And then what happens is they make their money back really quickly because you helped them put up an awesome post. And then they get the bug of like, oh, okay, that was cool. And I made money and I can help people and it was fun. And now they see that coaching isn't just a hoax. They can actually make money. And so they're in, and you just found yourself not only a new challenger, but a new building coach. So that's how I'm going to end it. Those are my tips for conversations. Inviting follow-ups, objections, digging deep, closing.
Was that you circling back around to your coach invites that you wanted me to remind you about, or did you have something in addition to that?
That was it.
Just making sure.
That was it. I did it. I was like, boom, and I got it.
You got it. That way it flowed so well. I didn't even know. So I'm not going to add a lot to that because, guys, that was crazy valuable information. I mean, I really recommend that you guys go back and listen to this once the recording is posted because, I mean, I know I got a lot of stuff from it. And, I mean, I was just like blown away with the way she does make it sound so natural, right? And so there is a question in the chat that says, how long does it take to get past the awkward stage? I didn't feel awkward at all when Joan was talking because she was using her own voice and she wasn't reading from a script and she was having a normal conversation. So yeah, it's scary, of course. It's scary, but only because of the notion that the limiting belief that you have when people reach out to you about something. But it's when she was talking about the Hey Girl messages and how it's not, we don't have to take it right to Beachbody. It's not about the end result, or it's just about having those conversations. It's funny how our mind works because I get Hey Girl messages all the time. Like, hey girl, were you at the pool? I think I saw you and your kid at the pool. Well, my mind immediately goes to like, okay, how long can I keep this conversation going? Because if she's reaching out to me, I'm going to circle back around and invite her at some point. Right. So it's the other, like, it's a normal conversation. Like, just have a conversation. We don't think it's weird when other people have a normal conversation with us. So it doesn't have to be weird to have a conversation with them. And that's what social media is. I know it's hard when you kind of put your feet in the water with Facebook or with Instagram, and, maybe you haven't always been on social media or you haven't always been posting consistently. But once you do, and then you realize that you can build a business from it, you also have to realize that it's been a social media platform for years now. Like, it is so the norm. Like, it is so bizarre for people to not have Facebook. So be social and start the conversations and just talk like you're speaking face to face. If like little things like, I know all of you don't speak in perfect grammar all the time, so you don't have to type in perfect grammar. You know what I mean? It doesn't, like, I say YA a lot. Like, how are things going with you? Because that's how I would talk in person. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be, and how are you today? Like, that's when it gets awkward, and that's when it seems like it's a copy paste, like, because that's not how I speak. So even in my social media posts, I speak with a lot of sarcasm. And the best compliment I can ever get is when somebody says, oh my gosh, girl, I can totally hear you saying that. Like, that's when I know I crushed that post. So I'm gonna comment, or I'm gonna message people the exact same way. I'm typing the way it sounds in my head because that's how I would normally speak. So the more you do that, how long does it take for the awkward stage to go away? The more you message, the faster it goes away. Yeah. It's just like anything else. And then once you get comfortable with it, we can find something else for you to get uncomfortable with. So if you ever get comfortable, you're already moving backward. So
I love that saying, inaction breeds fear. It's so
yes.
true. The longer you don't do it, the bigger you build it up in your head and the scarier and crazier it's going to be. But if you just go out there and do it with it, keep in mind, like, you are so focused on you if you're fearful to talk to somebody else. You're fearful because you're worried about what they are going to think of you. That's really what that boils down to. And so when you think about it, that's actually being really selfish, right? Because if you were thinking about them, you would be thinking about how this has helped you and how you can help them. And then you'd also realize they're only thinking about themselves too. So they're not really thinking about you anyway. The whole time that you're worried about it, they're only thinking about themselves. Like, why is she reaching out to me? Why would she want me in her group? Blah, blah, blah. I wonder what she thinks of me now. Like, I don't know how to have a conversation. I'm not answering well enough. Like, they're having all of those thoughts too. So just be just be yourself and just do it. And if you have to just like do those donuts in the morning to get over it, so you're actually getting the invites out, that's the hardest part. Once the conversation started, it's not that bad. Like, they already wrote you back. It's not that hard. Like, a lot of the times in the beginning, I would send out like a butt ton of invites like right before I went to bed, so that when I woke up in the morning, I had like a full messenger on Facebook, so I could just start responding to people. And that was like a really nice way to get over it and kind of move forward too. Because I was fearful. I will be completely honest. That was one of my biggest things. I said in the beginning, like, what do you do when you have something that could completely change somebody's life, but you're just worried of coming off salesy, or you're worried about what they think of you, or you're worried about whatever. I wrote that to Gabrielle Bernstein, and she wrote back to me and said, be unapologetic about the service behind your business, and everything else will fall into place. So that's what I did. I just started practicing thinking to myself before I started a conversation, what do I have to offer them? How can I help them? If they say no, it's not because they don't like me. It's because they're just, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe they're fearful. you know, or like whatever, but it has nothing to do with me. I can only offer help. And something my grandfather said to me like a really long time ago, funny story. In college, I never bought a parking pass. Do you guys know where I'm going with this? So at the end of the year, before I could graduate, we had to pay $800 in parking tickets. I wasn't the only one. There were people walking around campus like crying. There were people like, everybody was talking about how they had all these parking tickets and like they were going to be in huge trouble. And so my grandfather at the time, he was paying for my schooling and stuff. So he gets the bill and he's like pissed. And he calls me and he's reaming me out. And I'm like, it's just because I was afraid to ask for the money for the parking ticket. I didn't have money. And I didn't want to call you and ask for money. And he was like, yeah, well, you could have asked me for $45 and now it's $800. And I'm like, eh. And he goes, here's the thing. He goes, the answer is always no if you don't ask. And so you have to ask. You cannot make somebody else's decision for them. You can't hold someone else's future captive in your own mouth. You have to get over your fear in order to help other people. It's the only way that you can do it. So I would say PD your face off. Like listen and read so much personal development that like you don't even have your own thoughts anymore. It's all personal development. Second, meditate and pray on it. You know, meditate and imagine people coming to you. Meditate and imagine you having amazing conversations. Pray about like what you want and how you want to help people. And before you sit down at that computer, just remind yourself of what you're grateful for within this and that you have that to offer to somebody else. That's my recommendation, how you get the hell over that.
So good. So good. I mean, turn what if they say no? Like, what if they say no? Turn that into, oh my gosh, what if they say yes? Like, what if they say yes? Like, think about all the lives that can be impacted by the ripple effect of one more person saying yes, because now it's no longer about how many people can you reach, but how many people can they reach? So forget about what if they say no, what if they say yes. This also goes back to your personal belief. So like, don't sell yourself short. Don't skip your workouts. Follow the program, follow the calendar, drink your Shakeology, stick to your nutrition, because I'm sure that you're enthusiastically speaking about everything else in your life that gives you joy. So if you build your belief in what you're doing, there's just no way that you don't want to share it with the world. So, I mean, practice, build your beliefs, say your affirmations, PD yourself to death. And then like Joan said, send your messages right before you go to sleep. Because I know the thing, like think about when you post a before and after picture. It's like you're putting yourself out there in all of your glory and you're posting the before and after picture. I have to do it right before I work out because I'm nervous, post a picture, shut the computer, walk away. Like that's just, that fear never goes away for me. So if this is something that, you know, you just have to get it out, shut it down, walk away. When you come back, those messages will be there or they won't. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's out and you've done it and you've created the actionable step and it'll get you past your fear the next time you need to send that invite or to post that picture or whatever it may be.
Nothing bad's going to happen.
No. And if they say no, like, does it really matter? Like, is your life really changed because somebody said no? You know, like at the end of the day, like if I got 10 no's today and no yeses, like okay, so I wake up tomorrow and I do it again. What if tomorrow I get 9 no's and 1 yes, or whatever numbers you're working with, right? So like in 2 days I got a yes, like Yay! That's pretty awesome. You know what I mean? So like just think about that. Like it's really not, we overcomplicate things so much in our head, but it is scary. It's just not going to get less scary until you do it.
Yeah.
This was such a good call, Joan. Thank you so much for this. And like I said, guys, I mean, I know it's been a little bit longer, but I'm not going to extend any more on this tonight. We'll meet again next week, but go back and listen to this. Like your friends that are in the group, tag them in the replay and make them listen to this, because this is a lot of really good actionable steps. Like take lots of notes and then implement. Like don't just absorb the information, but actually implement it, because this was good stuff. This was a golden one.
Everybody should jump off this call and go send 10 donuts. And when you're done, I'm going to go and upload this. I'm going to post it in the page. And when you're done, you're going to post that you did it. Okay. And I know who's on here right now. Amber, Melissa, Kelly, Brianne, Kim, Megan, Meg, Shannon, Rachel, Tanya, Katie Gamage. I see all your faces. I know who's on here.
This is a really good time too. This is a great time. They've put kids to bed. Everybody's just scrolling on their Facebook. They're trying to go to sleep or occupy themselves
Or
aimlessly
they're bored
for a little while.
TV sucks, so they're just looking at their phone while they're watching TV. So
Yep. Or Thursday night football's on and all the wives are on the couch just scrolling.
exactly. Get done. 10 donuts. All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks again, Joan. This was awesome. Y'all have a good night.
Bye, guys.